Welcome to the Lost in Transit podcast. I am your host, Spud Groshong. Now, this week on the podcast, eventually I'll bring you 10 questions with Sara Melotti. If you're just finding out about us, head back a couple episodes, listen to the actual interview with Sara Melotti. It was very insightful. She has quite a lot to say about how social media is influencing people's travels and how it's kind of turning people into fucking idiots. But I wanted to talk about something I found this week. So it's a couple things. First of all, I've always had this dream of doing the Adventurist Mongol rally, right? So it's a trip from London to Ulan-Ude in Russia. You used to go to Ulaanbaatar, but something in the process of getting rid of all of the cars and so on and so forth, they've changed the destination. This week I found a map that someone had put together of all of the border crossings in Central Asia and, well, regular Asia, I guess. It's mad. I will link the map in the show notes, but like digging through it, how there's local border crossings that tourists aren't even allowed to go over. And then there are tourist border crossings. There's so many different things. It's crazy to me coming from a place where I guess I just don't think about things like that. But that map helped, well, is probably going to help dig my own self a hole while I'm trying to plan a trip through Central Asia, which really, who knows when the hell that's going to happen. In 2017, I did a trip that initially I wanted to go from London to London overland, with Beijing being the middle point. Well, I made it to Beijing, I went to Xi'an, and then I went to Hong Kong and flew home. I ran out of money, so eventually I'm sure that I will make that Beijing to London trek through Central Asia. This map will help a lot. Now, the other thing that I found this week, scrolling through Twitter, is an Airbnb experience called Around the World in 80 Days. Now, it starts in London. Well, first, let me say, this is not an Airbnb sponsored thing. This is just something I thought was super fucking cool. And if you're wanting to travel a lot or you're afraid, this would be a good group activity. So it's called Around the World in 80 Days. And again, I'll link this in the show notes as well. It leaves from London, it arrives back in London. It's 80 days, 79 nights, accommodation, transport, food, and drink. But it goes like this. Week 1, England, Romania, Uzbekistan. Week 2, Uzbekistan, Egypt. Week 3, Jordan, Ethiopia. Week 4, Ethiopia, Kenya. Week 5, Kenya, Nepal, Bhutan. Week 6, Bhutan, Thailand, China. Week 7, Australia. Week 8, New Zealand and Japan. Week 9, Japan and the USA. Week 10, USA and Ecuador. Week 11, Chile and the USA. Week 12, Iceland and England. I don't know. To me, that just sounds like an incredible adventure, especially for somebody who is trying to get out of their shell and can't really figure out what they want to do. That is almost the perfect long trip in my eyes. Anyways, I'll link both of those things below in the show notes. But yeah, that's enough out of me. I'm going to take it over to the 10 questions with Sara Melotti. Thanks for listening. Welcome to 10 Questions, Sara Melotti.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Oh, okay, so question 1. Window or aisle seat?
Window, always, because you can lean on it and maybe, hopefully, sleep a little more.
Yes, that is my favorite. Question 2. What is your least favorite place in the world?
That's a very tough question because I don't really have one. The place where I had most problem was Morocco because I got food poisoning twice, and I had a bit of issue with some people because they are very aggressive when it comes to getting you to eat in the restaurant and that. But beside that, I still like it. But if I have to choose one, maybe that's my least favorite.
Okay. Question 3. Street food. Is it delicious or is it gross?
Is the best thing in the world ever.
Yes. See, so street food is where I got sick. In India, I got food poisoning from street food.
Oh, yeah, you have to be very careful in India.
Absolutely. But it happened. And, well, it's a good story for later in life.
Yes, that's true. Food poisoning are always very entertaining stories.
Mm-hmm. Okay, question 4. What's one thing you cannot travel without?
My camera, of course.
Question 5. What's the most interesting thing you've ever tasted?
Interesting? Oh, gosh. Doesn't have to be good, right?
No, it doesn't have to be good.
Then, I did a lot of interesting things. I drank goat blood in Tanzania in a Maasai village. I had insects in Cambodia, scorpion, and lately on my last trip, I tried balut, which is a duck egg. I tried this in Vietnam. It's a duck egg with a fetus not fully formed inside, and it was the grossest thing I've ever done in my life. But I had to keep an old promise I made.
It doesn't sound like you steer away from weird things.
No, I try everything beside like dogs or cute animals that could be pets.
Okay. Question 6. What is your biggest fear while traveling?
I never thought about this. I'm a very brave person, I think, or very stupid. It depends how you want to look at it. Very responsible, definitely. I think my biggest fear is to not be able to travel. Nothing while I travel.
Okay. Question 7. Outside of your home country, what was the first and the last countries you visited?
First country I visited was France when I was like 4.
Okay.
And the last country was just in Vietnam a few weeks ago.
Excellent. Okay, so question 8. Planes, trains, or automobiles, how do you prefer to travel?
I really like trains, especially long, dodgy train rides. Like I did one in Myanmar from Yangon to Bagan, and it was like a 17 hours on this incredibly bumpy and dodgy trains. I thought I was gonna die for a few times, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience.
I saw that on one of the Anthony Bourdain shows.
Yeah, he did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of regret taking the bus and not actually taking that train.
It was seriously like a very, very beautiful train ride, and I stayed in the third class. How do you say wagon? Mm-hmm. As long as the sun was up. Then when it got dark, I got a ticket for the sleeping wagon, and there was nobody else there, just me. So I don't know. It was like one of the most magical rides of my life.
Very cool. Okay, so question 9. If you could travel with one person for a week and then never hear or see from them again, who would you choose?
Dead or alive?
It doesn't matter.
Anthony Bourdain.
Fair enough. I feel like that's a pretty common answer.
Yes.
Okay, question 10, and the last question. Have you ever been anywhere that turned out to be totally different than you imagined? And if so, how?
This is another tough question. Iran surprised me. It broke my heart, and it filled it with everything as well. Because I didn't really know what to expect, but I didn't expect people to be that nice. Everybody was so, so, so nice. And the darker side of the story is that the same people, like, you can see their struggle, and you can see how they're so controlled by the government, and how freedom is a very different concept from us, and for us and for them. So yeah, it surprised me in good and bad ways.
Okay, very awesome. Well, thank you for being on 10 Questions as well, Sarah.
Thank you.
So that was the second part of the Sara Melotti interview, also what I call 10 Questions. Now remember, you can find Sara Melotti all over the internet. She has facebook.com/Sara Melotti Photography. On Instagram, she is Sara Melotti _. There's SaraMelotti.com. There's thequestforbeauty.com and behindthequest.com. All of these will be linked in the show notes below. Again, I would like to thank you for listening. You can find Lost in Transit on the internet on Instagram at Lost in Transit Podcast, on Twitter and Facebook at Lost in Transit PC. You can email me with any of your questions, comments, concerns, or even complaints. I'd love to hear what you think about the podcast. lostintransitpc@gmail.com. If you have it in your heart to head on over to Apple Podcasts and give the podcast a review, you wouldn't even begin to know how much that would mean to us here. So, that's where we're at for the week. I will be back next week with more travel nonsense. Until then, my friends, get lost.